What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to NKU Sports Break. I'm your host, Trey Bowden. Joining me on the show today is NKU's Director of Athletics, Ken Bothof. Thanks for joining me, Ken.
Thanks, Trey. Great to be with you.
So you've been the Director of Athletics for 7 years at NKU now, and the department has seen tremendous amount of growth and success, particularly in its early stages as a Division I program. What has led to that success?
Yeah, a lot of it was, just we were fortunate that the university did a great job preparing for the move to Division I with some of our facilities, primarily some of our budget needs, and then also the academic support that we needed to put in place as we transitioned to Division I. And certainly I think that's had a lot to do with it. Obviously, we've been fortunate. Our coaches overall have done a very good job managing the transition as well. I think you can see that in their success within the Horizon League currently, but certainly the success that men's basketball has enjoyed over a period of time now, and then with women's soccer being the first team in the first year to make the NCAA tournament, and volleyball last year. I think you take those team successes and then some of the individual success that we've had with some of our individual sports, golf, track and field, and cross country. I think those have been huge. And then when you tie in the community piece, and men's basketball is related, their success is related to this, but our Go Norse Fund board, from a fundraising standpoint and community involvement, has really done a great job of growing our base in terms of donors who give to our program. And then just our season ticket growth has been phenomenal. That certainly has allowed us to continue to invest more in programs, which I think we have to do year after year. But at the end of the day, you know what? It really is the coaches and the staff and the student athletes really committed and working together to create an environment and a culture that leads to success academically, which we've enjoyed certainly, and athletically.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the landscape of college athletics has been navigating through this COVID-19 pandemic for the last 6 months. How have you approached navigating the challenges coming from this pandemic?
Yeah, it's interesting. The university really started right off the bat with a university preparedness team, so I probably pulled a little bit from that script. So we started our own athletic group and preparedness team that includes our team doctor, Dr. Desjardins, and some senior staff members, but also a disease specialist that can help us through this, who is also on the university preparedness team. So pulling together that group really helped us navigate a lot of the changes that we've had to deal with. I think that has been a key piece, along with we started right away with 3 meetings every week with our senior staff so we could make the plans that need to be made for our athletic program to move forward.
Yeah, the whole situation around the pandemic has seemed very fluid. And what challenges does that introduce, and how have you addressed those challenges?
Yeah, probably the biggest challenge is just the amount of information that comes out and the changes in it and how quickly it changes. So we've had to kind of plan if you want to call them our phases to our plans the same way. They're going to have to be fluid plans. So our first 2 phases, or what we called Phase 1 and Phase 1A, frankly, went really smoothly. It's when we got to Phase 2 that started to talk about students coming back, preparing for games and competition, that everything changed. I think we've probably had at least 4 different phases to just Phase 2 alone. And when you think about it, when you're looking for competition and you've got the Horizon League, which is in 7 states. States had several travel restrictions, or cities had travel restrictions within that geographic area. Then you start thinking about testing availability and what's going to be there. from a testing standpoint, those decisions and during that phase was when the Horizon League decided to postpone the fall sports. And so that's been a big change. I'm just really am thankful that we started this athletic preparedness team when we did. And Dr. Desjardins, Dan McIver, Molly Woods, Brian Booz, and Chris Halfling have just done a great job with that group in making sure we aren't rushing through things. We're prepared for each phase when it becomes available.
Yeah, with the fall competition postponed until the spring, what does that mean for all of the sports programs at NKU?
Yeah, well, Trey, you experienced it last spring, right? When everything got shut down. The difference with the fall somewhat is in the spring, we just sent everybody home, right? Campus kind of shut down. Everybody was sent home. In the fall, I guess the fortunate thing is that although there won't be competition, we do plan on keeping our student athletes on campus. Those that want to opt in and continue can continue. I think that's important for the overall mental health and well-being of our student athletes. So they'll at least, the fall sports that had their regular season, and then we do have some that were also in a smaller window, spring seasons, that had a small fall sport program. They'll still stay here, and they'll go through transition that will begin now that they're back. As you know, we're going through testing everyone, and then we'll begin with those sports with kind of the social distancing type practices, get through that phase, make sure we can manage those, and our kids have adjusted and are in good enough shape to start competing more physically, and we'll be able to move into those activities. Unfortunately, there won't be that competition in the fall, but I think just that active lifestyle, that opportunity to compete and practice, I think that's a huge positive for those sports. I think it will keep them engaged. And then, so we'll have to continue to follow the CDC guidelines, obviously the NCAA with testing requirements and all of those things as we move through this phase. But we're certainly hopeful that in the very near future, we're able to start competition again. And hopefully we get to that point where that happens soon.
Yeah, really, it's just a blessing to be able to just practice in any kind of form at this point. I know all the athletes have been missing it so much, so just to get out there any way we can is a blessing.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So once competition is able to resume, what are the next steps for the Norse Athletics on a big picture level?
Yeah, great question. I think this is big picture, but also something we're going to be living in for a while. It is to make sure we're providing some of the mental health support that our student athletes might need, the health and well-being of them continuing to be important to us. We know it's a difficult time for everybody, but more so those who are really used to being active and staying engaged, and that's going to be important to us. But we've got to wrap up our strategic plan with our new strategic plan, with communicating that to our student athletes. That's going to be important, and to our community. Certainly working with our coaches and staff so that we want to take meaningful action as it's related to the racial inequality and social injustice conversations going on. That's going to be extremely important to us so that we can have those real engaging actions that will show we're committed in Northern Kentucky and on campus to being a part of those. And then really for us, it is that continue to be that big picture is how do we continue to get better athletically in athletic competition, and how do we continue to provide the academic success and resources that we need for our student athletes. It's changing a great deal nationally, and we have to be ready for that, to be able to provide more support for our student athletes. And that's where our community is going to be so important to us if that continued growth is going to happen, and we can build off of our current success.
Absolutely. If everyone can just do their job, stay safe, follow the protocols, I have a good feeling we'll see sports in the spring.
Yeah, I do too. I certainly hope so. That's our plan. And I do think if we all do come together, do what we need to do, I think we're off, excuse me, to a good start on campus. So that does give me hope that we're going to continue to be able to practice and look towards competition in the spring.
Absolutely. And I can't wait for it. I'm sure you can't wait either.
It's the thing we miss the most, the
Yep.
interaction with the student athletes and watching you compete. That's why we do what we do. And it makes it very, very enjoyable. So we're ready.
Yep, we're all ready. Well, hey, thank you for joining me on the show today. That does it for this week's edition of NKU Sports Break. I'm Trey Bowden.